right, I'm gonna get started. I would like for, I would just wanna make sure everybody hears me. So if you don't mind just putting in the chat, hello or something so that I see that you guys can hear me. That would be great. I appreciate that. And just wanna say, so happy that for everyone that's been able to join. I appreciate the time. I hope you're going to learn something today and is going to be helping you. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me know that that you guys can hear me. All right. We're gonna get started. The training is on responding to challenging behavior. Gonna get going with it. This is presented by me. However, our great BCBA and the person who actually kind of stands at the bottom of like applied ABC is Giri. So she put together the training, which is extremely valuable for all of us. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So about me, I have been lead BCBA. I have worked in as a special education teacher before, and right now I'm a center director in Raleigh. I have worked in schools, in homes, the community, center-based programs. I have master's in ABA from Endicott College. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about challenging behavior. For example, disruptive behavior such as calling out, getting out of seat, talking to friends. And give me just a second, please. 1 second. I'm going to interrupt this for 1 second. Let me just restart this for 1 minute. Second. All right. So I want to start on like functional analysis, behavior assessment. Very important part of like what we do here at Applied ABC. So basically, most of you have probably experienced this, have already worked with the BCBA and kind of know what it means, right? And when we start providing ABA therapy, we really kind of have to have an idea of like, where are we, what skills do we already like have, what behaviors might appear, and what are some like some problem behaviors that might come up. So for this, we're working on a functional behavior assessment. The functional behavior assessment, we have a couple of different tools that are helping us, and I'm sure some of you are already familiar. I know a lot of the parents that I particularly work with have definitely filled out a FAST form, which is a functional assessment screening tool. And this kind of helps us identify what the function of the behavior is. Another way is the motivation assessment scale. Also provides a lot of information. So first, we define the behavior operationally and in a way that is observable and measurable, right? So if we're gonna say the child gets off the seat and gets up from his seat and walks towards the door, right? Like we want to be exactly where does he get up? Like what am I measuring? How many times the child got off the seat? I can see how many times they actually got off the seat. Okay, look for the function of the behavior. Why is the behavior happening? This is the most important question that we have. And do we want to increase or decrease the behavior, right? If we're looking for skills, we want to increase the behavior. We want to make the behavior happen more often. If the behavior is what we might call like a challenging behavior or really like disruptive behavior or dangerous behavior, we might want to decrease the behavior, right? Okay, so I just want to say this is kind of what we're going to discuss about. If you have any questions, please make sure to add them in the chat. And we'll get to them towards the end of the training. I really just kind of want us to get through everything. So I have the chance to share all the information, but if you have any questions, add them in the chat. We'll get to them when we get towards the end of the training. All right. Functional analysis. There are 4 conditions when attempting to determine why the particular behavior is happening. One of them is escape demand. Is it done to try to escape a demand, right? And this happens a lot in the school setting when there are behaviors, when there are tasks presented, right? Like there's math and there is, like certain like particular chemistry and biology, or, just like maybe writing or spelling that might be difficult for a child. And when that task is presented, they're going to use some behavior to escape that task. So that is the escape demand, right? The other condition is attention. Is the behavior done to get somebody's attention? A lot of the times, for example, so let's stay with the school example. If they're in school, the child might prefer a particular teacher, right? So they might act in a certain way when they know that teacher will come and help them out. Or they might have they might use like crying, or like, just like maybe attempt to get a particular peers attention, right? A lot of the times when the kids get a little older, they want to be seen as like, they're the best in the class, or they're brave and they're doing this. So they might get into some maladaptive behaviors that are getting the peers attention. Okay, access to tangible. Is the behavior done to try to get an item, right? So here is a very common example that I'm sure all of you have experienced. So basically, when you turn the TV off, or just the child is asking to watch the TV, we'll point to the TV, we'll request the TV at the wrong time that's not available, right? And you say no, and the child is going to start crying. Sometimes if you're working or you're tired, you might say, okay, like just 10 minutes, right? So what is the kids are learning that crying is going to get them a little bit of TV at least, right? So that behavior is going to increase because we just reinforce it. So, all right, and alone, this is or a sensory condition, right? Automatic condition, right? Is the behavior done when the child is alone, right? This is usually an intrinsic reinforcement that it's not controllable by us, right? So that's another condition of a function of a behavior. All right, so many behaviors can be understood by the function of the 3 events. What happens before, antecedent, what is the actual behavior that we remember is measurable and observable, and then what is the consequence of the behavior? What are we doing after the response, after the behavior? How are we going to respond to the behavior? Are we going to reinforce it, which is going to make it increase, or are we going to find a replacement way to do it, find different appropriate, give other choices so that the behavior does not happen again, right? Is not reinforced. All right. Identify problem behaviors. Does it look socially inappropriate? Okay, so what could look something that could look socially inappropriate might make the child or family members, maybe a sibling, might make them feel awkward and maybe even more just kind of like it's going to keep them apart from the community, right? So that will be maybe some inappropriate laughing, right? That kids might have when they go out to the park, and then it's going to create make the other kids not want to be friends with them or something like that. It's going to affect them in a longer term, right? Does it interfere with learning, right? Like we definitely, like if there is a behavior that interferes with learning, it could be getting out of seat, escape behaviors, right, are going to interfere with learning, because by getting out of the class or getting out of seat all the time, they were not going to like stay on task and complete the task that is presented by the teacher. Does it cause harm to others, right? Like, and this could be anywhere from actually hitting somebody, or just kind of like getting in the way, pushing somebody, pushing a peer away, where the parents are not going to be okay hanging out with them anymore, and so on, which limits their world, which is pretty much what we're looking for, right? We were trying to expand the world, increase the world of the child, right? Does it cause harm to oneself, right? Like we want to make sure there's not any self-injurious behaviors, right? Destruction of property, and this could be anywhere from like actually like breaking TV or laptops, or breaking a toy of another child. The other kids are not going to be around a child that breaks their toys, right? So we want to make sure that those behaviors decrease, and we have more examples coming up. I just wanted to make sure that we go through them. Socially inappropriate, right? Like hand slapping, rocking, telling oneself, talking to oneself, right? Like if you walk in the park and you're talking to yourself, the other kids might just, is nothing that harms you personally, but the other kids might just find it not appropriate, and then they're gonna stay away, and then because of that, we're gonna be limited on how many people we can interact with, and then therefore we're going to like lack on social skills, right? All right, interfere with learning, lack of eye contact, eloping, throwing items on the floor, mouthing items, right? All right, can cause harm to others, hitting, hair pulling, kicking, any of that. Okay, cause harm to self, right? Biting, hair pulling, scratching, destruction of property, tearing cards, pulling items from the wall, breaking laptops. All right, how to reduce problem behavior. So once an FBA is completed, the functional behavior analysis is conducted, and the function of the behavior is determined, we can decrease the problem behavior by teaching replacement skills, right? There is always a replacement, a replacement behavior. Anything that you can think of, like, I don't know, right now, I'm just thinking like kids, I cannot take my kid to the beach because every time we go there, they eat sand. How about we use graham crackers, we mince them, and then we replace the sand with that and say, hey, this is what you can play with. I'm sorry, this is we have a visual chart, this is what you can have, this is what you cannot have, and they just kind of like give that same texture that the kid needs, because it might be a sensory reinforced behavior. All right, so how we can reduce problem behavior, increasing on-task behavior, right? We want to make sure that the kid can stay on task longer to decrease the time they can get involved in like those challenging behaviors, right? Child mounts pieces to a puzzle, teach the child to put a puzzle pieces on a form board, right? Behavioral plans must be followed specifically as they are written. Consistency as home is it's a great has great importance, right? So that's why we want you to kind of be on aware of what we're working on in a center, in home, in the therapist during therapy, so that some of these skills can be practiced when the therapist is not in the home, right? When the child is not in the center or in school, right? Where they work with a behavioral therapist. Sometimes we might ask you to like put us in contact with the school, because that way we can, if there is no behavioral therapist or RBT in the school, then we can maybe communicate with them and say, hey, like, what are the strategies you're using there? If there are problem behaviors in the school, let's collaborate. Let me share what strategies are we using in the center, what strategies are we using at home that work, so that you can implement them in the classroom as well. Okay, and behavioral plans must be documented, reviewed, and modified when needed by a behavioral analyst. And so any changes that might come, you might come to a BCBA and say, hey, I have this very I've seen this new behavior that, my child started screaming, and a lot of the times a parent will say, and it's okay to say that until like we'll work together on identifying the function. A lot of the times the parent will say out of nowhere. There's always a function for the behavior. One of the fours that we just discussed, right, is always a function for it, but it's okay to come and bring it to us as a specialist to work on and identify what the function of the behavior is, and we can work on it together. All right, reinforcement, great help in decreasing challenging behaviors. It's a consequence following a child response, which increases the likelihood of the target response to occur in the future, right? So consequences can be positive and negative, right? And we'll go further and discuss about it. Positive reinforcement, that means when you add something to make the behavior more likely to occur, right? So we'll add something that we already know that the child is interested in, right? The child likes, and it's a positive addition to what the child already has. So here, for example, if the child brushes their teeth, right? This is a behavior that we want to increase, right? Maybe I'll play some music while they do this, because I know that the child likes music, right? So I might play some music. I might have like a little toothbrushing dance or something like that while the child is brushing their teeth, because they like seeing me dance or they like listening to music. So I'm going to add this during the behavior so that the behavior increases and happens more often. All right, and this could be favorite food, favorite song, favorite toy, desired sensory input. It might be a hug, a strong hug that is going to help them in a sensory way where they feel the compression of it. All right, negative reinforcement, that is when we remove something, when we take something away that might be aversive to the child in order for the behavior to happen more often. So for example, if I talk really loud right now and it's aversive to you, I'm going to quiet down and talk softer so that I take that loudness away to make you more likely to stay in the training, let's say, right? So you're taking something aversive away to have the behavior happen more often. So for example, you are allowing the kid to get out of the chair when they finish an assignment, right? They don't have to sit in the chair anymore. So they now that you're taking that condition away, right? Where like you have to sit in the chair during school time. Well, no, I'm making this very reinforcing to you, so I'm going to take this condition away. Sensory stimulation that is aversive, like we just discussed. All right, there are some primary reinforcers. These are natural reinforcing items, right? Like pretty much what is on the bottom of the Maslow pyramid: food, sleep, drink, stuff that we're kind of we're born with the need of it, right? So we usually use those. Reinforcers for new skills, when we teach new skills, right? Because we want to make sure, especially for very young kids that don't necessarily have high interest in other behaviors, right? Sometimes teenagers might already have like potent reinforcers such as playing video games, right? Or watching a video, right? For younger kids, like watching a video, that might be more potent for them than actually having a snack. But this is a great use in like younger kids that don't have that potent reinforcers, that are conditioned already, and we can use food, drinks, and other primary reinforcers. Now, secondary reinforcers are items that acquire reinforcing properties through learning, right? Praise, money, right? Tokens. praise. I learned that that praise is good for me, because every time when my mom praised me, then she cuddled with me and she did stuff that she gave me a snack. So it's being conditioned to love, is being conditioned to food, right? Is being paired with these reinforcers, right? And that means that now they are becoming very strong, right? They're secondary reinforcers, but they're very strong because in the past they have been paired with those primary reinforcers that we're talking about, right? Why do I know that? Why is money reinforcing to me? Because I know I can buy food with the money. I can get a hotel room if I'm stranded somewhere. That's going to give me access to sleep, right? So that's what secondary reinforcer means, right? Now, tokens, this is a bit more towards like a specific towards ABA, right? Usually used in ABA. So I actually brought an example here that I can show you. What tokens means, right? So usually I just covered it, so we don't have the name of the client here. So basically we have an amount of tokens that the child has to earn before they actually get access to a break. So so they will have to earn all the 5 tokens in order for the child to get access to whatever they might want. We can add, I actually do have another one here where so she has to earn 7 tokens, and she has to identify what is she working for, right? So what am I working for on a break? It might be a game, it might be going to a sensory room, going to the gym, going to the art room, whatever they might choose for a break. That's what they earn after they fill in all the tokens. Using the secondary reinforcers are usually used after primary reinforcers, after the skills has the child is familiar with the skills, and we can move on to secondary reinforcers. But again, these are exceptions, and every child, as we know, is different, and they might have such a potent secondary reinforcer that is going to like they're going to respond very well to, right? A lot of the kids, as you know, they might be very much interested in praise, and they like to be in the center of attention. So offering that might be more reinforcing to them than having a strawberry. All right. Social praise, wow, you're the best. Tangible, toys, activities, books. Generalized can be exchanged, as we just discussed. A token board. Automatic self-stimulatory behaviors. This can be a concern. And why can this be a concern is because us, the adults, or anybody, the caretaker cannot really control them. They cannot really control them in the sense of it might be interesting. So it might be there might be a child that likes screaming or making loud noises because they like how it feels on their throat, right? So it's very hard for us to control, and only way we can kind of deal with it is by finding a replacement behavior that might offer the same sensory stimulation. And it's very hard in some situations, but maybe I will have the child sing. Maybe I will have the child like work on singing a song, and then once I transfer that to singing the song, the child is not just going to scream for it. Then I can control when are we singing, right? However, singing is more appropriate than just screaming, so we're gonna move on to singing, and then singing, because we have to play the music, right? Then I have a little bit of control over it. So in time, I'm going to try to decrease that singing and not take half of the day, right? So that way we can transfer it to where we do have some control over it. So reviewer reinforcers could be food, it could be praise, it could be tokens, it could be attention, it could be automatic reinforcers, right? And we discussed this. Okay. Schedule of reinforcers. There are a couple different ways to reinforce, right? Depending on where we are with the skills, how comfortable we are, what is the percentage of like the child knowing the skill, right? So once we passed that initial teaching, then we can move on to maybe less dense reinforcer. But continuous reinforcement is when we reinforce every occurrence, every correct response. So every occurrence of the target behavior is being reinforced. The schedule is often used when teaching new skills, right? Like we want to make sure that when I am asking, what is this? And the child says dancing, I'm going to I want to make sure it's what it is. So when I say, what is it? And the child says dancing, I'm going to reinforce. If the child does not say dancing, then I'm not going to reinforce. So I'm continuously reinforcing the correct answers. All right. Another way of reinforcing, once we learn the skill, so now the child understands, okay, I'm saying this, I'm going to get reinforced. I'm not saying this, I'm not going to get reinforced. We can move on to intermittent reinforcement and schedule of reinforcement, which means we're not going to reinforce every occurrence. We're going to reinforce based on a schedule of reinforcement, and we'll discuss what those schedules of reinforcement could be. They can be fixed ratio. So let's say I'm saying I'm going to answer every other correct answer, right? Because eventually we want the child to access the natural occurring reinforcers, right? So we want the child to all right, so if let's say hey, you go to school, let's say the child has had a hard time going, like staying into school, they'll start crying when you drop them off. And so we'll say, hey, if you go to school and you're going to stay and there is no crying, right? I'm going to take you for an ice cream after, right? And the child stays in school Monday, Tuesday, and you take them for an ice cream every day. Now you're like, you're thinking, okay, like it's a little bit too much ice cream. The child's already getting comfortable at the school. So now we're looking to transfer that towards like the child should have like natural occurring reinforcement because he gets to hang out with friends and he learns new things and it's fun. They play games, right? So those are the natural occurring reinforcers. A lot of the times our kids here are going to need additional reinforcement. That's what we're doing. But in time, we're looking to decrease. We're not going to always take them for an ice cream, right? For a whole year. That will definitely get diabetes. The kids will definitely get diabetes after that. So we want to make sure, okay, 3 days, they've been comfortable. They're starting to like the school because they like playing the games. Now we're trying to fade it out a little bit. So what we'll do is just what we'll do, we'll just try to fade off some of the reinforcement. Okay, so we'll do every other day, then we're gonna go have an ice cream after school when you stayed in school with no behaviors. Every other day we go to get an ice cream, then they're doing good. Okay, well, every 3 days we're gonna go get an ice cream. Then, hey, once a week we're gonna go have an ice cream, right? This is every 5 days of school, right? Then we can also say, hey, like, I don't want them to like get disappointed because they know that today we're not going to school. So I'm going to use a variable ratio. So the child doesn't really know when they're going to get an ice cream or not, right? So what I'm going to say, it's going to be a variable ratio of 2. So that means sometimes I'm going to take them every day, sometimes like Monday, Tuesday, and then I'm not going to take them until Thursday. And then, or I'm going to do Monday, Wednesday, and then Friday, right? Or I'm gonna do 3 days. I'm gonna take Monday, Thursday, and then Friday, right? So we're going to vary it so that the child doesn't know exactly when they're going to get the reinforcement, so that we don't have incoming like challenging behaviors in the days that the child might know that they're not going to get the ice cream after. And on that, there is also a schedule reinforcement of variable intervals or fixed intervals, which means that would be like time measurement. The same way we discuss a ratio, it will be just time measurement. So let's say if I'm going to try to increase the time my kid is sitting at the table eating their dinner, right? So I'm going to say every 10 seconds, I say, hey, nice job sitting at the table. That's so amazing. I love it. Or I've seen some kids do not like soup at all, right? But they like this corn puffs. So I'm going to like while the child eats their soup, every couple seconds, I'm going to say, here is a corn puff, to continue to encourage them to eat their soup, right? Whatever that might be, right? Those are just examples, of course. It depends on the situation. But anyway, so those fixed intervals as well, fixed interval and variable intervals. Just let's say I want the child to get engaged in listening to me reading a book. Every 10 seconds I'm going to reinforce and say, hey, thank you for listening. That's sitting so nicely and listening to me reading. That's amazing. You're doing so good. I'm reading more. I'm saying it again and saying it again, right? So that's also a schedule of reinforcement. Okay. We want to use a primary reinforcement for a newly acquired skill, right? Or a very potent reinforcers. A lot of the times, I'm not a great fan of like using like candy or stuff like that for reinforcers. However, the one time I would use a potent reinforcer, whatever that might be, a primary reinforcer, is when we do toilet training, right? We want to make that as short of an experience as possible, so that the child doesn't get the trips to the bathroom to be aversive to them, right? And we get that process going as fast as possible. So that's when we might use a primary reinforcer, a potent reinforcement, just as an example. We're going to try not to use primary reinforcement when for prompted assisted trials. What we mean by this is if I ask, what is this? And the child does not respond to me, I might say, it's then so they can say dancing, right? I partial verbal prompt prompted the child to actually answer me dancing, right? So that might not need a primary reinforcement, right? Because I can just give some praise. Hey, you did a good job, right? And move on to the next answer. And so kind of in the same area is like you want to give better reinforcement for better responding from the child. And the child completes a puzzle in record time, then you should give a longer break. The child might do a more complex puzzle than usual. You might want to give them a longer break, right? It's the same for adults, like for you, right? Let's say you don't want to have to drive to a restaurant. You are not going to drive to a restaurant for half an hour if you do not like the food, right? So in order for you to put that effort in, you're going to have a great meal there, a great experience, a great ambiance. It's called the matching law, right? So what we want to do is like whatever effort we put in, it has to be equal to whatever reinforcer we're getting. So it's the same for our kids, right? We want to make sure that when we reinforce something, we're gonna make it a big deal. If a kid is going to pee on the potty when we're doing a potty training, oh, it's a party in there. Everybody's is going to praise them, is going to like encourage them, is going to like, they might get their favorite picture to color, they might get their favorite game access to whatever game they might want, right? It's a party for sure, right? We want to give that extraordinary reinforcement because they have put effort to go through a great behavior, right? The desired behavior is something that we've been looking forward to, right? Pre-MAC principle: a preferred activity can reinforce a less frequent engaging activity. Listening to music can reinforce cleaning up the toys. So what am I going to say? clean up the toys first, then you can listen to music. This is also called the grandma's law. The grandma's law, because the grandma used to say, eat your veggies and then you can have cake, right? So very easy. And for this, we are using first and board pre-mac principle. So for example, let's say for my child, let's say it's aversive to go to the trips to the bathroom, let's say, right? Okay, so I'm gonna say bathroom first, then you get to play your favorite game, which is magnet tiles. So I'm going to present a visual with the two pictures in the correct order, right? First this, then this, right? So basically it requires the completion of the less preferred activity in order to get access to the more preferred activity. All right. Important aspects of reinforcement, and we can conduct a preference assessment reinforcer inventory. So a lot of the times, if we cannot identify preferred toys or preferred games or preferred foods for a child, we will do a preference assessment. And this has to happen often because the kids will always change their preferences, right? We change our preferences. Everybody changes their preference. So we want to make sure that we always stay on top of like what is reinforcing this child, right? Because we don't want to get into a situation where I'm going to put on this board some activity that the child is not interested in, right? I don't want to put myself in that situation because they're not going to complete this task, right? So why they might not like it, maybe they have liked it, maybe they are satiated. Satiation means that they had so much of it that they don't want to do the activity anymore, right? It's pretty self-explanatory. We don't want to get there. That's why a lot of the times you'll hear me say, as like, to the parents I work with, TV should not stay on in the house whatsoever, right? The TV access, any electronics should be earned, so that when we're using it as a reinforcer, the child feels like, okay, I've earned something. I did something good and I'm earning something. Now, if we are having the TV on all the time, why should the child clean their toys in order to watch TV? No, they will not, because they already have access to the TV, right? And they're already satiated of it, right? Like if we have if there's a song the child might like, we can use that, right? We can use the, hey, like let's do this, and you can listen to the song, right? And we might set a timer. Hey, you can listen to this, or you can do this for 15 minutes, but that's it. That's what you earn. You want to work more and you want to do more stuff, then you can get to listen to it again, right? For a determined period of time. Also, that will show the child that you are in control, right? You are the one deciding how long they're they have access to an activity. And when they know you are in control of it and you're the one deciding how long, what is happening, what do they have to do in order to get access to something, you will see there is going to be an increase in compliance, because now they are identifying the more positive behaviors they're showing, the more reinforcement and access to the things they like they will have. All right. Another thing that we want to remember, to use continuous reinforcement first when teaching new skills, right? We want to make sure that the child identifies wrong and right, right? What is the correct response? What are we expecting from them? What are we not? So when we use continuous reinforcement, that is easier to do, right? Because, okay, I said dancing and I got something. I said jumping, I didn't get anything, right? So what am I gonna say next time? I'm gonna say dancing because I got something, right? I got a token for it. Okay. Pair all primary reinforcers with secondary reinforcers. What we want to do here is make sure that when we when we see that, you know, maybe one reinforcer, it's difficult to maintain, right? So like, let's go back to the example with the ice cream, right? Obviously that's not we cannot hold it for too long, right? Because it's just not healthy for the child. So maybe we have ice cream in a specific park, right? So right outside of school there is an ice cream place and a park, right? So what we want to do is get the ice cream and go into the park. Go the ice cream and get to the park. Go to the ice cream and go to the park. Now, what I'm trying to do is pair the ice cream with the park. So then what I'll do, I'll fade away the ice cream and go to the park only, right? The park is now becoming preferred just because so many times we've had a good time having ice cream in the park, right? So that's what pairing primary reinforcers with secondary reinforcers could be, right? For example, reading a book at bedtime, sleep being a primary reinforcer, right? Now I'm reading a book, then I'm trying to use that book for reinforcing in the future, right? So maybe when the child is agitated and they need some attention, we can sit down and read the book with them, right? Okay. What happens if you delay the reinforcement? Well, I have to say that it's quite important that we offer immediate reinforcer. And generally, like a reinforcer has to be delivered immediately after the correct response. So I'm asking, what are they doing? Child says reading, and then I immediately give a token. The reason I'm not gonna wait a couple seconds before I give a token is because the child might say, when I ask, what are they doing? They might say reading, and then they'll turn around and stick their tongue out to their peer. And then I come with a reinforcer, and here's your token. The child might understand very well that, that I reinforce them for sticking their tongue to their peer, right? This is more like of an extreme example, but this can happen. Maybe they put their mouth, their finger in their nose, or maybe they push somebody on the side that I didn't get a chance to see if I did while I was getting the reinforcer. I should have this token right in my hand, right? I should have this token right in my hand, and then the moment I got the correct answer, that's when I offered it. All right, so we have an example here where, like, if you present, if you ask for the child to clap, and they respond by clapping their hands, and there is a delay, another behavior might happen meanwhile. All right, now about punishment, is a lot more to talk about punishment, but we're gonna keep it a little bit short just because I want to give you guys some time to ask some questions. So punishment is something that will decrease a response, that will decrease the behavior from happening, right? Now, we want to make sure that we don't use this for skill building, right? We don't want to, if I ask, what is this? And the child is skipping, right? And I ask, and the child says dancing. I'm not gonna say, no, it's not dancing, you're wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna say that. It's proven not to be efficient at all. So we want to make sure that we stick to the positive responses, right? And reinforce those. Use correction procedures such as errorless teaching. Maybe we can say, hey, let's try again, right? Like something like that to replace it. Let's try again. I can help you. You can ask for help or something like that, right? Like, we're going to try to use Maybe we might have, like, if a child spills something, we might want to teach them to clean it up, right? We might want to teach them, and that's a form of punishment, but that's something that we could use, right? We could ask the child to be responsible in some way or another, especially for older kids. We want to make sure that they get responsible for whatever happens. And sometimes, like, even if it's a mistake, or we might ask them to give an apology to a peer after they did something, right? But we don't want to use this to teach skills, right? Okay. For behavior management, there are situations where unfortunately we might have to use, like, very direct statement to a child. Like, if I have a child that runs into the street, I will say, stop, come back, maybe even in a raised voice tone, right? Because that is a dangerous situation that we're getting into, right? So there are different examples. So for this, we really want to check in with a specialist, of course, and use, like, the natural, like, the outcome, and kind of balance the danger with the situation, right? So again, this for behavior management is just really, like, we should follow. It's not something we can talk in a group, right? Like, it's individualized. All right.